First up with Commando, we got Commando's Grenade, and Commando's Grenade is pretty decent. I'm going to put this one into B tier. I think it's good. You can spam it, you can blow things up with it pretty quick. You can take it on Survivalist too if you'd like. You can't take like the EMP that we've talked about on there, and it's okay on them. It's pretty good for spamming at like quarter pounds or flesh pounds. You can blow them up quick, or it clears up crowds. You can also blow yourself up pretty quick with this too. Commando's starting weapon is the AR-15, and this weapon is pretty terrible. I don't think anybody really likes this weapon. I'm going to put this one D tier. It does okay damage per shot. It has a 20 round magazine with either 3-round burst or single shot, or semi-auto. Semi-auto's fine, 3-round burst is okay if you just want to spam it out really quick. It's not a weapon that you're really looking forward to pick up off the ground unless you're just out of bullets with everything, and then at least it's something. It actually does scale well with upgrades, going up to like 60 damage a shot at max rank, which is okay. It's not great for the weight of it though, and the iron sights aren't a whole lot of people's favorites. It's just a weapon that you usually want to get rid of, and it's why a lot of people that play Commando won't even really start as Commando. Another reason is just everybody picks SWAT to start out with if you want the best starting stuff, because the MP7 and the double 9mm are really good, and the full armor is really nice. So then you can just skip over this and then go for something else. And the AR-15 is also just not something you really want to start out with as Survivalist, or pick up as Survivalist, unless again you're out of bullets. It would still be D tier for them. Bullpup's up next. I'd put Bullpup C tier. It's a very average gun. Is full auto, holds more bullets than like the AR-15, holds actually a lot of ammo overall, weighs 5 so you can take it with the minigun if you would like, and it's okay with Survivalist as well if you want to take it. It's probably still not one of your best options when you have submachine guns that do the same job as this one for early on into the game, but on Commando it's fine enough. Drone on Commando is pretty awful, I'm going to say. I'm going to put drone actually like D tier for Commando. It doesn't really help. Your main gimmick with Commando is that you extend Zed time. If this is extending or taking your Zed time extensions, it can make it run out faster, so that's not really that great. It can also aggro bigger things. Commando's not amazing at killing big things compared to some of the other classes. They can do it, and later on to the game, if you've got like an FAL or whatever, then it's no problem. But early on, you don't want to be raging like Skrakes, raging flesh pounds when the team isn't ready or when you're not ready. This is honestly a much better off-perk weapon, and it's actually pretty good on Survivalist. On Survivalist, I'd say this thing is like A tier probably. It's probably also like A or B tier on Medic, because it is actually a decent off-perk weapon. Just for holding an area, you can clear up all the small Zeds, and if you enrage a big Zed as like Survivalist, who cares? You can kill it right away. If you enrage a big Zed as Medic, you can either face tank it and kill it, or you can just heal up somebody else and they can kill it. So it's not as big a deal for them. The drone is much better off of Commando than it is on Commando. Then we have the Tommy gun. The Tommy gun's okay on Commando. I'm going to put it C tier as well. It's fine. Usually you buy it early just so that you get a whole bunch of bullets, because it can have a large magazine and it can hold a lot of shots. Does okay damage, not the greatest rate of fire. Scales okay with upgrades. It does count as a cross-perk weapon with SWAT, but it's honestly not amazing on them either. It's also kind of heavy for just a tier 2 weapon at like 6, so if you want to throw upgrades into it, it gets kind of clunky. Not really the best on Commando, not really the best on Survivalist either. It can be an okay option, but you still have better submachine gun options than the Tommy gun early if you want to take something in that role. Then we've got the STG-44 or the MKB-42, whatever you want to call it. Same difference more or less. I know this is like an earlier version of the STG, but for all intents and purposes, this one is decent on Commando. It's not incredible, but it's okay. It kind of weighs a decent amount since it's a tier 3 weapon. It weighs like 7. Does good damage per shot, actually scales pretty well with upgrades. It's a fun weapon that I like, but I don't think I could put it any higher than B tier. On Survivalist, it'd be lower. It'd probably be like D tier on Survivalist. There's no reason to take it. Weighs too much, costs too much. Just to have something that clears up small and medium Zeds, you have better options than that. Then we have the M16. M16 on Commando is really good. I'm going to put it A tier. It has basically like no recoil, does decent damage. Grenade launcher on it's pretty cool for breaking up crowds or for dealing with like flesh pounds or at least quarter pounds. Flesh pounds it does kind of struggle with unless you want to spam grenades from your throwable and then spam this into them. It's not bad then. Iron sights are really nice too. It has big open iron sights. I really like that. And it doesn't weigh very much. You can pair it with just about anything with Commando. It's also a really good weapon on Survivalist because it counts as a cross-perk weapon between Commando and Demo, so it's super flexible there. You can have a larger explosion if you'd like with it. Can have fast reload, still clears up small and medium things quickly, and it doesn't weigh that much, so it's actually probably A tier on them as well. AK is in a very similar spot. AK I'd also say is A tier. It does good damage per second, has a 3-round burst fire on it, which is actually useful. Usually flipping to the 3-round burst doesn't really help any of the weapons, but the AK it actually does because it gives you a higher rate of fire. And it does have a red dot on it, which is pretty nice. Once you get the recoil pattern down and once you get Commando leveled up to where you have good recoil reduction, the AK is actually pretty strong. Early on, not so much because it does bounce around a bit, but into the later levels, you can control it pretty easily. And you can clear up a lot of things with it. It also doesn't weigh too much either, only coming in at 6 weight, I believe. It doesn't scale as amazing with upgrades, though, as some of the other ones. Although the M16 doesn't scale amazing with upgrades either, so yeah, take that for what you will. Then we've got the Famos. Famos is in a really weird spot for Commando. It's probably not a great option if you're going to take either one of these weapons. They're probably better. Maybe the STG is better as well. I think I'm going to put this one into C tier. You get a 3-round burst rifle with this. It's only 3-round burst. You can't change that at all. It has a high rate of fire, though, and low recoil, so that's not too bad. And it has an ACOG sight on it. Its secondary is that you get to fire the underbarreled shotgun on it, which is basically the pump action for support. That's not bad. It does decent damage. This one has always kind of felt awkward to me. It also doesn't technically weigh that much. I think it weighs 6. So you can actually pair this with quite a few different weapons. But I don't know. The Famos has always felt kind of weird. If I could switch it to full auto, it would be a lot higher. But with 3-round burst, I think it would probably be C tier. For Survivalist, it's not probably an option that you would take. Not when you have the M16. Same goes with the AK. AK would still probably be a little bit lower than the M16 for Survivalist, but it would be okay-ish. Then we've got the Scar. Scar's kind of in a weird spot as well. Scar I'm going to put B tier. I think it does decent. It holds a lot of bullets, which is really nice. That's the one major thing the Scar does, and it does okay damage. It also doesn't weigh that much. But other than that, I still probably wouldn't take it over the AK or the M16 for most instances and pair it with something else. If you have a lot of cash, or if you just really like the Scar, that can be an option. It does have semi-auto or full auto. It's all around just a decent rifle at basically everything. So I could see people arguing this for A tier. It's also okay on Survivalist. I still probably wouldn't take it over the M16 because you don't have the synergies with it. But it would be an okay option then. So probably a little bit lower for them. Stoner is very, very fun. I'm going to put the Stoner into B tier. It's really good for crowd clear, and it's really good for just continuous rate of fire. That's the main thing that you're going to be using the Stoner for. It does weigh 9, so it does limit you a little bit, but you can take an M16, you can take an AK, you can take the Scar. You have some pretty decent options there with any of the weapons that you want to take. Makes it so you can't take every weapon with Commando, and throwing an upgrade into the Stoner isn't way great. It doesn't increase his damage very much. It gets to like 3 more damage or something, which just doesn't matter that much. It does okay against medium things, not the greatest against big things though. You have to empty out a lot of rounds if you want to kill flesh pounds or scrapes with it. The FAL, I would say the FAL is probably like S tier for Commando. It's one of their best weapons. Does high damage. You can give it a larger magazine thanks to your perks. You can switch it between semi-auto and full auto. It's got the ACOG sight on it, which is kind of nice. Depends on the map. But yeah, FAL is pretty good overall. And on Survivalist, the FAL is actually really good too because it's a cross-perk weapon between Commando and Sharpshooter. So if you want to take it, you can have a fast reload regardless. It's probably like A tier on them because it is still kind of expensive and it is still a little bit hefty, but it's still pretty good. I would move that one down. I guess we didn't talk about the Stoner either for Survivalist. I'd probably move that one down to C tier for them. It's probably not something you're going to go for. If you want a lot of bullets, you can just go with like the P90 and do basically the same job with it. The Medic AR, at least the 401, I'm also going to put into S tier for Commando. This one's really good. You can heal with it. That's a huge bonus. Does good damage, doesn't have that much recoil, has nice sights. That's really all it needs to be really strong on Commando. You can clear up small and medium things with it really quick. Big things you're going to kill a little bit slower, but you can pair this with like your FAL, and you've got a super strong loadout. On Survivalist, this one's also really good, probably A tier. Maybe not one of the best medic weapons to take with them, but it's good enough. It has a large magazine and it does decent enough damage to clear up small and medium things. Then we have the 501 medic rifle. This one I'd probably also put into S tier for Commando. This one shoots a bit slower than the regular rifle. That isn't a huge deal. It does have an underbarreled grenade launcher similar to the M16. This lets you fire out medic grenades. Medic grenades are probably the best grenade in the entire game. And you can just clear up small things with it. You can heal allies with it. You can make a safe zone for allies with it. It's really good in that area. The only thing that kind of sucks about this is that it's expensive. You have to wait quite a while to get the 501 here. The 401 is a bit cheaper, and I usually just go with that one. But this one's also pretty solid for them. Then we have the minigun. The minigun is in a weird spot. It got buffed again. This is like its third buff or something, third or fourth buff, and it's still awkward. It's never going to be a great weapon on Commando. I'm going to put it onto C tier. At least it's never going to be a good weapon on Commando if they keep the weight high. Right now it weighs 10, it costs 2,000, so it's super expensive and it's super heavy. The only weapons you can pair this with are the drone, which we've talked about why that's not a great thing for Commando. The AR-15, not a great thing for Commando, or like the Bullpup, which is a decent option for Commando. So you're basically using Bullpup, minigun. Minigun at least holds a decent amount of rounds now, and you can move somewhat quick with it, so that's kind of nice. But by the time you're getting this, it doesn't clear up big things quickly. It clears up small and medium things fast, but if you want that, you can take the stoner and do the same job. And you can take something like the M16 or the AK or the SCAR with this, where you can with the stoner, and all those would be better options because then you can actually deal with the larger enemies fairly effectively. On Survivalist, it's still probably C tier, maybe D tier. You're probably not going to take it on Survivalist, although you could because you have extra weight. But you're still not going to get very much value from it. It's mostly just you want the minigun and you want to spray it at stuff. I don't know if we talked about the 501 with Survivalist. It's actually pretty decent. I'd probably also say A tier for it. Meta grenades are amazing, assault rifle's good enough, and I think that does it for Commando's weapons too.